We interview people from across Australia in the footprint of more than 250 Indigenous nations. We recognise and deeply respect our First Nations people, their heritage, cultural beliefs and close relationship with the land on which we walk, drive or fly over.
This episode of the Flying Doctor podcast has been made possible with the support of RFDS national partner HCF, Australia's largest not-for-profit health fund. HCF's partnership with the RFDS across Australia reflects its commitment to bettering healthcare access and outcomes for those in remote and rural regions.
You know, all these thoughts are going through my head, but then the doctor came in and she said, an ambulance will be here in 40 minutes to pick you up, and we've got the Royal Flying Doctor plane on its way from Warren. And I thought, okay, let's lock it in, let's just no more plans. And she said, that's it, it's on its way, it's coming. I promise you, this is the last plan and the final.
Just turn around as quickly as we can.
That blood pressure is not coming up.
Unload the patient.
Is it a big property?
Still breathing okay at the moment.
On a 493, understood, thank you. Put the stretcher back in, shut the door, off we go again.
This is the Flying Doctor podcast and I'm your host, Lana Howarth. Each week we fly to rural and remote communities across Australia and hear the stories of real-life patients who've needed to call on the Royal Flying Doctor service. Have you ever been to Forbes? It's in the central west of New South Wales, a 5-hour drive from Sydney via Bathurst and Orange. Originally a goldfields township, Forbes is located on the Lachlan River and has a vast collection of historic and heritage buildings and monuments. I have very fond memories of Forbes as a child, as my family travelled there at Christmas and we stayed at a local caravan park where there was a rope extending over the river. And we spent hours swinging out, letting go and bombing into the water and climbing out with enthusiasm to do it again and again and again. Jolene is a young mum who lives in Forbes and has a growing family, and I suspect they also enjoy the same in hot summer months. Hello, Jolene.
Hey, how are we going?
Really good. Have you always lived in Forbes?
No, actually, Lana, I grew up in Albury, so that's 4 hours south on the border. So I did all my schooling there and I went to university there. And it wasn't till I met Jake that kind of really sparked me to move.
So what did you do at university?
I'm an occupational therapist.
Oh, I do love OTs. I've really come to treasure OTs in recent times because my parents are elderly and they're on their age plan and so forth, home care package. And as part of that, we've had to get OTs to come out and, assess their home and assess, what they need and so forth as they get older. So are you practicing as an OT currently, or has your family distracted you a little bit from that?
I'd say that's the case, Lana. I'm still on my mat leave at the moment, but I actually am returning to work tomorrow. So,
oh, great. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll be back in the hospital tomorrow. I work on the ward as a substitute occupational therapist. So I'm really looking forward to it, getting my brain back into, some adult talk and, it'll be nice.
You met Jake. What does Jake do?
He is a stock and station agent.
Oh, now here we go. This is the first of several distractions. So at the moment, Jolene is at home with 4 children and we have a challenge to see how often we can be interrupted through this interview. Yep. So who's just walked into the room to talk to us?
Well, you've got Lane here and he's after an ice block.
Great.
Lane's 2.
Lane is 2 and has figured out how to ask for ice blocks. Okay, great. And who else is at home at the moment with you?
I've got Bo, he's 4. They're meant to be watching a movie, but, can only distract him for so long. And Noah, he's 6 and he's at school. He's in kindergarten.
So it's you and the 3 children at the moment?
Yes, that's it.
Yes, and she's holding Indi at the moment. She's just been having a feed. Indi's relaxing and chilling out. So do we need to get an ice block?
Yeah, we might do that, I think.
Let's continue. You were telling me about Jake, and what does Jake do?
Yes, so he's a stock and station agent here in Forbes, but he hasn't always been a stock and station agent. I guess when I met him, he was training with Penrith Panthers full time. Oh. Yeah, so when I lived in Albury, he was living in Penrith, and he was down visiting friends in Albury that had just moved to Albury from Forbes to start uni, basically. And it was just one weekend we ran into each other at Rebel Sport, where I used to work throughout uni.
So is he still playing rugby now?
This is his first year of retiring. He used to play for Forbes Magpies here and has taken them through coaching, and they've won some premierships here. So it's been, a really nice way to help us, I guess, settle back into Forbes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with those connections through football, yeah.
And is he originally from Forbes and his family?
He actually grew up in Buxton, down near Sydney, and they moved to Forbes as he started year 9. They've been here since then, and this is, I think, where we're staying. Yeah.
Yeah. And tell me about your home there. So you've got the 4 children at this point. Tell me a little bit about your home.
We're 7 k's out of town on 100 acres, which is perfect. It's, if you forget the milk, it's not too much to drive back in and grab that. And we have livestock in our property, so we have sheep and cattle, and we also have another property about 60 k's out of town towards Trundle, but we've got 1,500 acres there, and we run more livestock out that way. The farm at home is where we live, and take all the motorbikes out on the weekend, and the boys love it. They're so lucky to have that.
Oh, absolutely. That's great. So let's talk about Indi. So Indi arrived, she's so young, she just arrived last year.
She did.
Was it the same as your previous 3 pregnancies? Were there any issues or any challenges in your pregnancy?
I'd say it was uncomplicated, like all my other ones. If anything, this time I did develop some lead clots, which I had to go on.
A blood thinner?
Yeah. And so that was probably the only kind of hiccup, I'd say, out of the whole pregnancy. Apart from that, everything was fine.
When was she due?
She was due on the 9th of April, which is actually Lane, who just interrupted us. That's actually his birthday.
Oh, okay. So number 4 child, did you know she was a girl?
Well, Jake and I did, but he made me swear I wouldn't tell anyone that I knew. So he didn't want everyone to know. We just wanted it between us 2, which was so hard to keep secret because I can't keep secrets. So it was really hard.
Were you able to keep up with that promise or no?
I did. I actually did. I just had to tell myself I didn't know and believe it, because otherwise I would have blabbed it. I unintentionally let it slip to my sister-in-law, but she never let up that she knew. So
Oh, good on her. Baby was due in April. When did you know something wasn't quite right, or did you become worried?
Well, I guess that takes us into Indi's birth story, really. It was my oldest son's 5th birthday, so Noah. We'd had a huge birthday party for him the day before. People over, pool party, the house was full of so many family and friends. And, the next day was his birthday, and I woke up not feeling very well, but neither did my mum and my sister. So I just put it down to, we're all dehydrated, we've all been eating too many party lollies, and, we're just feeling not very well. We might have like a little bug or something.
What month was this? Because Indi was due on the 9th of April.
Yeah, this was the 11th of February, which is, my oldest's birthday.
Okay, so significantly early, and you weren't feeling great. Tell me about that.
We had a few symptoms of just like your nausea, like something like your vomiting bug kind of thing. It just was very similar to that. No energy, just feeling flat. And so when my mum and my sister felt the same way, I just put it down to, we've all caught something and we're just going to have to write this out. So that day Jake actually took the kids to the farm just so we could all rest and feel a bit better. And it probably wasn't until 3 o'clock he got home in the afternoon and I was feeling a bit better. I'd actually been able to get up and clean up the party and relax a bit. But it wasn't until he got home when I put 2 and 2 together and thought, I actually haven't felt any movements today from the baby, which is really out of character for that pregnancy. And like as soon as Jake got home, he said, what's wrong? Something's off. And I said, I haven't felt the baby move. And he said, let's go straight to the hospital. And I kind of ummed and ahed and thought, do we really have to go up? Like, wait another hour. I'll try really hard to get, things moving, drink lots of cold water, all these little things they tell you to do to try and see if you can get the baby to move. But he just said, what's the point? Just go. Don't be stupid. Just go.
If you're worried, just go.
That's right. And at this time, the boys were all asleep in the car. So he said, look, I'll follow you up to the hospital. You get in your car. I'll go with you. I'll wait in the car park. You'll go in and check it all out and we'll go home. I said, okay. So that's what we did. We went up to the hospital, 3:30 probably when we arrived. And, they popped on all the monitors and boom, heartbeat was there. And that was just like an instant relief.
Yeah.
Jake and I were like, oh, great, okay. I called him because he was still down with the kids in the car. Look, there's a heartbeat, it's okay. All right, great. I'll just take the boys to Mum's house. And because he has to work Sunday nights, this was a Sunday night, he said, oh, I better get to work. I said, okay, that's fine. I'll probably be gone soon anyway. But little did I know, Lana, that Bub's heart rate was quite high. And because, I wasn't feeling well, dehydrated, they were thinking that was probably the cause of the high heart rate. So they had decided that they'd do some IV fluids just to lower the heart rate and get me feeling a little bit better. On the monitor, they could also see, I wouldn't say a full contraction, but they could see something going on, and they just kind of put it down to maybe your uterus is a bit aggravated at the moment because you're dehydrated. But I was getting Braxton Hicks. Those Braxton Hicks that they talk about?
Yes.
For me, it was so normal throughout all my pregnancies. I had them all the time. So that didn't even go through my mind and make me alarmed one bit. So... Right. They were just keeping an eye on that, keeping an eye on the heart rate. And I think it got to about maybe 1.5 litres of fluid they'd put through the IV. And this was getting later, like around 6 o'clock. And still nothing was changing. The heart rate wasn't dropping. The niggles or the Braxton Hicks I was feeling weren't going. But I still felt fine. I was happy. I was chatting away to the nurses
do.
Jake called and he just said, how are you going? I said, oh, yeah, I'll be home soon. Called my mother-in-law. Oh, yeah, I'll be home soon. I know you got the kids. I'll be home. Once his heart rate drops, I'll be home. So, that was about 6:30, I think.
Yeah.
And then, Lana, I feel like the time frames from now on get a bit blurry, but things started to get more serious in nature, I guess you'd say. I think the doctor had called Orange Hospital. So Orange is our biggest base hospital closest to Forbes, which is an hour 20-minute drive away. Advice that they gave again was give her more fluids. She needs more fluids. So I remember being hooked up to another bag of a litre going through my body, which of course meant I'm needing to go to the toilet every 20 minutes. You pump the fluid, you're just going to keep going. And then it wasn't probably till maybe like half an hour later, the doctor on, she was lovely and I can't remember her name. There was so many doctors, but she was a locum and she was beautiful. But she said, I think we should give you some medication to try and, settle Bub down, settle your uterus down, because that's all still going on. The high heart rate, the Braxton Hicks, might have been some codeine or something that they gave, hoping that would help.
Yeah.
Half an hour later they came in and nothing had changed again. So this was probably getting towards 8 o'clock, 8:30, and she said, look, I'm making the call. I need you to stay in hospital tonight because I'm not happy sending you home with your Bub's heart rate that high. I said, okay. For me, I was like, oh, wow, I've never had to do this in pregnancy, and, I feel fine. I feel stupid saying this, but at the time I thought, oh, this feels a bit over the top. I think I was just being in denial or something, Lana. This is so crazy. Anyway, so I called my sister-in-law and she was able to drop up some, just a set of pajamas and, was like, oh, yeah, the kids are right. They're fine to stay the night at Jake's parents' house. So that was good. And then they came in, I think it was around 8:30, and they suggested that they do a swab, which actually measures the protein and which apparently can tell you how soon your body's going to go into labour and have a baby. So I was like, oh, okay, if we want to, let's do that. Did the swab, and when they did the swab, I think that's when I started thinking, oh, maybe this isn't going to be as straightforward as I thought it was. Have you heard of a mucus plug? They say you lose your mucus plug before you go into labour.
I have, yes.
So the doctor said, oh, that was your mucus plug that's just come away. I said, oh, okay.
Now, you're essentially 8 to 10 weeks early, right? So it's
Yeah.
mid-February.
I was 31 weeks pregnant, so 9 weeks early. Yeah.
9 weeks early. Okay.
Mm.
We've got further
someone-
children just coming to see what we're doing
think
and
so.
investigate what we're up to. It was only a matter of time before they got just too curious to know what we're up to.
I'll get another ice block.
By the time we finish this podcast, they will have had 12 ice creams.
This podcast has been made possible with the support of Isuzu Ute Australia. Have you seen any of our 7 large RFDS flight simulators as they move around Australia? Attending school, community or field days. Each is being towed by an Isuzu D-Max Ute, courtesy of Isuzu Ute Australia. Reliable vehicles are imperative in the harsh Australian outback, and the Isuzu D-Max and MUX vehicles are the perfect match for the long-distance heavy towing demands of these simulators right across Australia. To learn more, search Isuzu Ute online.
Essentially, it's 8 o'clock at night. You are at 31 weeks. You're at the hospital and Indi's heart rate's up still. And you've just been told by the doctor that your mucus plug has now come away, indicating essentially that there's a birth that's imminent. Is that what they told you, or what did they tell you?
Well, to be honest, at that time, they didn't give much away. In my head, I thought, oh, I've heard of people losing that mucus plug and they didn't have their baby for weeks. So, we can get a bit further along. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until they said, it takes about half an hour for this test to process and we'll come back and let you know what's happening. And as soon as they came back into that room, their faces were white. I just knew something was really wrong. And they said to me, this test has told us you're having your baby in the next 24 hours. And at that point, all I could think of was, oh, right. They say...
Indi is slowly dismantling the room. Go on. Sorry, Jolene. Okay. We'll get through this story no matter what.
But they said, because you are so early, you're going to need to get to Sydney as soon as possible.
Right.
And the first thing that I thought straight away was, it's my son's 5th birthday. I haven't seen him all day. How long am I going to be away? I haven't even been able to say goodbye to the kids. Or
yeah.
I just burst into tears after that. I don't think I'd really processed. They were telling me I was going to labour. I was processing that I'm not going to see my kids for who knows how long. I just had visions of being pregnant, like an opinion for the next 9 weeks. And I thought, oh, my gosh, what is going to happen? Just the unknown, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had my cry and then I thought, well, I've just got to do what they tell me to give this baby the best chance of, either staying inside me or, surviving if she ends up coming. So at that point, yeah, it was probably closer to 9:30 now. My sister-in-law was with me the whole time they broke this news, which is really nice for her to be there to comfort me. But, yeah, she got on the phone to Jake telling him to get his ass in here. And from there on, they tried everything to stop the labour progressing. I mean, I wasn't in that much pain. They were definitely increasing and getting more regular, the contractions, but I still was probably just in denial and pushing it away. But they gave me some medication to try and stop the labour, which didn't really work. The time frames now get extra blurry because I still don't really know. But I remember after them telling me I had to be in Sydney, the panic was on trying to find a way to get me to Sydney.
Right.
The doctor came in and said, okay, the plane that I was trying to get can't come because the pilot's done too many flying hours. So
I have to just say, so as Jolene's trying to tell this story, she's got Indi trying to use her as a play gym.
Just normal.
This is normal. Go for it. Keep going. You're doing an amazing job. I'm impressed. The patience of a mum. So, okay, so they're telling you need to go to Sydney. What was the plan? How were you going to get there?
I guess ideally being flown would be the quickest way to get there. I guess they're fighting the clock because this labour is progressing. 4th babies tend to come a lot quicker than 1st, 2nd, 3rds. And this beautiful doctor, she was doing everything she could to try and get some way of transport, I guess.
Right.
The first plane couldn't come because the pilot had done too many hours, and then a helicopter was talked about at some stage, but that wasn't available because it was getting retrieval from somewhere else. And then the next thing I knew, the midwife came in and said to me, look, we're going to get you into an ambulance and drive you to Orange Hospital and have an emergency cesarean. And I was just like, oh my gosh, this plane is changing every 10 minutes. I cannot keep up. So I think I just started zoning out because I thought these contractions are actually getting really, really intense now and I can't talk through them anymore. So I almost just felt like when you're in the depths of labour or, things are starting to get heated up, you kind of just retreat and go into your own world to deal with those labour pains.
Yeah.
So at that stage, I was just like, whatever, let's just get the plan going.
Whatever you're going to do, do it, but just leave me because I'm here and I'm concentrating and I'm getting and I can see it entirely.
Yeah. So that was the last one. And then I just thought, why do I need cesarean? Wow, the baby must be really unhealthy. And then she reassured me, if you have your baby here, your baby will be fine. We'll get the NETS team to come to us and it'll be all fine. And that's when I just started thinking, there's a little part of me still in denial that this wasn't all happening. But that kind of scared me a bit, thinking, oh, wow, if I have this baby here, this hospital is very not equipped for that size of a baby. Like their lungs aren't developed and things. So, all these thoughts are going through my head. But then the doctor came in, I think it was like 10:40 by now. I remember looking at the clock and she said, an ambulance will be here in 40 minutes to pick you up and we've got the Royal Flying Doctor plane on its way from Warren. And I thought, okay, let's lock it in. Let's just no more plans. And she said, that's it, it's on its way, it's coming. I promise you, this is the last plan and the final. So with that happening, I guess the next 40 minutes went by with me in labour, which I wasn't allowed to get out of the bed. I wasn't allowed to move. I had to be laying still. They didn't want, me to stand up and have gravity help the baby descend more.
Right. And where was Jake? Was he there?
So he had arrived from work. He sped straight from the sale yards to the hospital about 10 o'clock, I think. So I remember him being there when they said, we've got the Royal Flying Doctor coming. And so his sister had quickly rang up a change of clothes. He's quickly had a shower because he's covered in dirt and dust and been up at the yards. And I think it timed out well. He'd just finished getting ready and the ambulance arrived and ready to take us to the airport. And before I left, they checked me to make sure that I wasn't dilated or ready to go, basically.
Yeah.
So fine. I'd been to the toilet. I got on the stretcher and was in the ambulance on the way. I remember they gave me, I think, a GTM patch from memory to try and slow down the labour as well. But, that didn't really do anything. And by the time I got to the airport, I just remember getting out of that stretcher and just looking up at the stars and thinking, oh my gosh, it's such a beautiful night. Between contractions, look at these stars, everyone. Beautiful. I was just finding something to distract me, I think, just to get through what was happening.
Was Jake going to come with you on the plane?
We didn't know. We didn't know until we got to the plane. It's funny you say that, Lana, because the whole time in the hospital they said, don't bank on being able to get in the plane, or if it's a helicopter, you definitely will not be able to come with us. So his dad and his sister were on standby back at the hospital, getting the car ready to basically drive to Sydney to meet us at the end. But we got there and the pilot, I can't remember his name, but he was so lovely. He said to Jake, mate, how much do you weigh? And Jake it was pre-season. He was trying to bulk up for footy and he proudly said, I'm about 105, mate. And the pilot said, was that 95? Was that 95, he said? Like, come on, mate, I've got a weight limit here. And he said,
just lost 10 kilos.
Probably wasn't meant to take him on, but I think he could tell that, he needed to be there. So that was so kind that this pilot let Jake on the plane. And I had this beautiful flight nurse, Kerry, and she was this ball of energy. I remember getting there and she goes, let's go, let's jump off this stretcher and onto our stretcher. And I just looked at her like, I can't even move, Kerry. I'm in contraction. But, yeah, she was great. So got on the stretcher and I guess we're in the plane now. I'm on a stretcher with a seatbelt over my huge belly. I couldn't move.
Have you ever been in a plane like that before?
Not that small. Lana.
Was it what you thought it would be? Because I think people sometimes have sort of ideas about what they think an RFDS plane is going to look like. Was it what you thought it would be, or was it different?
I just remember it being small. It was the middle of the night. I couldn't see much. So basically it was the pilot, Jake, Kerry and myself. I was on the stretcher and I remember thinking, gosh, Kerry has not got much room to work here. Like, she's crouched over me.
Yeah.
But I just thought, well, this is how it's going to be, I guess. So, yeah, I was strapped in. So it was very uncomfortable labouring strapped to a stretcher. I remember I had a drip in my elbow, which was really painful with the seatbelt stuck over my arm. I can remember that. But the rest of the flight, it's blurry, honestly. I look back now and think I was about to go into transition, as they call it, into labour.
Right.
So that's the depths of labour where you're asking for the epidural and you're telling everyone you can't do it anymore. I think that's where I was on the plane.
Right. Are you a really vocal kind of person when you're in labour, or are you just internalising it and almost meditative in terms of how you're handling it?
I was definitely quiet. I think just focusing on breath was what got me through, as it was through my other pregnancies. I'd done a hypnobirthing course back in my second pregnancy, and that has just been a tool that I've taken with the rest of them. I wasn't making too much noise, but in my head I knew what was going on in my body. But it wasn't until, and I couldn't tell you how far along we were on the journey, but I was busting to wee, and I said to Kerry, I'm going to wet myself. What am I going to do? I can't pee somewhere. I can't get out of this. I'm strapped in. And she just handed me what it looked like was like one of those vomit bags. You know, they give you a vomit bag in the hospital.
Yeah.
She actually said, good luck, try your best. And I thought, oh, no. She couldn't unstrap me to try and stand and get it in the bag. So I'm lying down, reaching over my belly, trying to essentially wee into this vomit bag without spilling it. It was impossible. It was impossible, Lana. So I've done my best there, and I just kept thinking, I'm so sorry whoever has to clean this plane. I'm so sorry. But after that, the next contraction was the most intense contraction I'd had the whole time. And I actually thought I was probably going to give birth to her then. You know, you started to feel that push sensation and you start grunting.
Yeah.
That was happening. And next thing I knew, the loudest pop you've heard happened, like a balloon popping.
Wow.
It was my waters breaking.
Wow.
The sound pop, and then it just went everywhere, like a big explosion. Oh, and I thought again, no, I'm so embarrassed.
What did the flight nurse say?
She just said, that was your waters. That was your waters. Okay. She didn't say anything else. She was great. She kept me very calm. But I just thought, oh, my gosh, I feel so bad. So after that happened, everything settled down. This is what my husband was telling me. I kind of can't really remember too much, but he said you kind of calm down a lot and, for a good 10 or 15 minutes, it's like you were sleeping. And then the next contraction happened. And, again, very intense, that urge to push. I'm grunting, and next thing Kerry said, I can see a head, I can see hair, and she goes, just follow your body. She knew I was worried to push. She said, follow your body. I thought she'd say, stop pushing, but she didn't. She was so great. She said, just follow your body. And within one push, Indi was born.
Wow.
Circling Sydney Airport as she was born. I'm not sure if you've flown from a rural area over Sydney, but you go out over the ocean and come back and land down in Mascot.
Yeah.
So Jake said, I think she was born in Mascot.
Either that or in the ocean.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Mom, it's done.
Oh, it's done. They've finished that ice block. Time for another one.
Movie done. I might put another movie on.
Yep, go ahead. So let's go back. So we're on a plane and Jake is there and you're circling in or coming in towards Mascot.
Indi was born basically over Mascot, and I remember Jake sitting behind me and congratulating me. He's going, well done, chick, you did it. I'm so proud of you. Good job. And I can feel his little hand on my shoulder tapping me because he was sitting directly behind me. And I just remember turning around and saying, no, this is bad, Jake. This is so bad. This is so bad. She shouldn't be here. Like, because she was born and she was placed onto my chest, but there was nothing, Lana. She was not moving. She wasn't screaming. She was just floppy. And not that I could see much, but I could, she was looking not the right colour. She was looking more whitey, bluey than like a fresh pink baby should look,
Yeah.
So that was when the panic set in, and Kerry started rubbing her chest with her knuckles, trying to get some sort of response, basically. And this felt like it went forever, this part, because you're sitting there watching your baby. Oh, I'm going to get emotional. And I just kept thinking to myself, she's not going to make it. She shouldn't be born up here. Her lungs are so underdeveloped. She's not going to make it. I just kept saying that to myself. And the next minute we hear a little cry and everyone just goes a sigh of relief. And she kept rubbing and stimulating her. And I remember her, and Jake probably have a clearer memory of it, but putting a little mask on her face and trying to just help her breathe. So that was going on. And then I remember as we landed, she'd managed to stabilise her, and she was doing this kind of little like half breaths, like this kind of little breath. And I was thinking, this is bad, like she can't breathe. And Kerry reassured me and she said, this is what she's trying to do. This is what she should be doing. She's trying to open up her lungs and trying to get them going. So she was so good at keeping me calm. And, I could have easily been this screaming, ragey mum, like, help, do something. But she was just so reassuring. So we get off the plane. Well, I remember an ambulance officer jumping into the plane saying, can I take your baby? And I just thought, yes, take her, help her, do what you can.
Yeah.
They went off into the ambulance and I ran out behind them, no pants on. I'm holding this huge bed thing over me, still just had a baby, Lana, like I'm bleeding, like it's not a pretty sight. And I jumped straight into the ambulance and they've got it wrapped up, and that was it. I was kind of expecting, should you guys be doing something, like should she have some sort of, I don't know, monitor on, or should she be like have a breathing mask on or something? But there wasn't really anything for that in that moment.
In a standard ambulance, there wouldn't be the equipment that they need. They've just got to get her to the hospital fast. Yeah.
These blokes, they said, we actually thought we were getting a heart attack off this plane, not a baby. It just was, oh, wow, okay. So, we're in Mascot, and the plan from the start was to go to Nepean. But obviously that is the other side of Sydney. It's a long way away. Yeah, in a car especially, in the ambulance. So we ended up being taken to Royal Prince Alfred. And, yeah, as soon as we got there, the most beautiful team of nurses and doctors came out with a crib, like the humidity crib, and just said, can we take your baby? And I said, please save her. And that was it. They took her off, and then I guess I went in and, got cleaned up a bit, and I think within half an hour I was back down on the ward with her. Yeah, I guess that's where we stayed for the next 3 weeks. Her first few days were quite up and down. Anytime she moved or was touched, her heart rate would jump, and it's, as a parent, you're sitting there watching these screens and alarms are going off around you and your baby, and you just think, oh my gosh, like, is this it? In your head you're thinking, does this mean my baby's going to die? Or it was just such a scary first few days.
Yeah, but Jake was there with you, right? And the two of you, were you able to have the baby there with you in the ward? Like, were you able to be there together even though she was in the humidity crib?
I guess how it worked, we were upstairs on the maternity ward where they had set up like a makeshift bed for Jake in the corner of the room, and I had a bed there. And then downstairs was the NICU where Indi was staying. So we were allowed there 24/7. And I think the first few days, one of us was there probably 24/7.
Right.
And it's funny, one of the doctors, Dr. Mark, I still remember him. he sat us down and said to us, like, if you keep this up, you're going to burn out. Because we had this huge guilt of leaving her by herself without a family member with her. And he just said to us, you're going to burn out and you're not going to be able to sustain the road that's ahead. So you're both going to have to get some rest and recoup and, you know, don't feel guilty for leaving here for an hour. Like, it was at the point I was holding on to go to the toilet till Jake would come back so I could go to the toilet because I didn't want to leave her.
It is a paternal instinct. It's you know, it's what we do. We love our children and yeah.
From having 3 healthy babies where it's as soon as they're born, it's all on you. You're feeding, you're changing, you're taking care of them essentially, and then going to, you're really not needed at the moment. Well, you are definitely needed. You're there for their support and, you know, you're providing that chest-on-chest kangaroo cuddles. And I was expressing every 3 hours. So initially, Indi was receiving donor milk at the hospital until my milk came in, and then I could be the one providing her those feeds, which is like, it made me feel a bit more need, I guess. I was needed more. It was such a bizarre feeling that someone else is looking after your baby, but they're keeping them alive in a sense. Like, so Indi was on a CPAP machine, which provides humidified air. The humidified air helped her lungs breathe a lot easier than it would be without it. And she started on the highest level of that. And I guess the idea is that you're trying to wean your baby off that machine over a period of time. Whilst in the first week, she needed to go under blue lights because of jaundice. So there was a few 24-hour periods where she wasn't allowed out of the crib and she had to stay under those blue lights to get her, I think it's her Reuben count down. There was a few times she spiked temperatures, which meant more antibiotics, more IV antibiotics. And you're seeing her with this little IV in her arm that's bigger than her arm. And you just think, how is that even possible? Like, she's so tiny and they're managing to get these lines in where they need to go. It's the care we received there was just amazing, Lana. Like, couldn't imagine how much they care so much for those little babies. And yeah, it was a bit of a wild ride there for a little bit.
Well, how long was it before they let you come home? Like, you gave birth over Mascot. What was that, on the 11th of February?
She was born at 1:23 a.m. on the 12th, which meant she wasn't born on her brother's birthday.
So how long was it from that 12th of February of last year till they actually let her go home? Because she was so early.
She was so early. So it goes in 2 stages, Lana. We were at Royal Prince Alfred for 3 weeks, and in that time Indi had managed to be off the CPAP machine and she was now on high flow, which was just providing that directly through a nasal tube as opposed to the whole facial mask setup. And once she was off the high flow, she was deemed safe to fly back to Orange Hospital. So at 35 weeks gestation, I guess you'd say, we were both flown back to Orange Hospital, and that's where we spent another 2 weeks in the special care unit working on breastfeeds and just fattening her up, basically. So when she was 37 weeks gestation, which they call a full-term baby, I think it is technically, that was the day we were just discharged home, which was, such a nice feeling to bring her home. And, we'd been 5 weeks away from our kids.
Wow.
They lived with their grandparents and Jake's sister for 5 weeks.
What great family you have. Oh, my gosh. I think there's something to be said for the amazing extended family. Like, I just think, we're so blessed when there's extended family that can jump in at times of crisis.
100%. We couldn't have done it. I mean, so Jake and I because of that, we were able to stay together throughout that whole time. And obviously Jake's work were amazing as well. They told us just stay there as long as you need to. Don't worry about work. Like, sort it out when everything's all good. So, we just had such amazing support from everyone back home in Forbes, like the community as well. Like, we had frozen meals sent up to us from home cooked from Forbes, and Jake would go back for like one night and then come back up just to see the boys because, they need to see their parents too.
It's a long time for family to be apart.
A massive amount of guilt leaving Indi by herself in Sydney and then leaving to go and see the boys. But like someone pointed out, they're your kids too, and they need you just as much as Indy. So, yeah, it was, I think I left only for one night, just a quick trip home and a quick trip back. But, just so blessed to have Jake's family. They were just amazing and taking on the kids full time. They're not like quiet kids either. They're wild boys.
So since Indy's been home, how has her health been? Have things progressed as you've wanted, or have there been sort of further scares or worries because of her early arrival?
When we were in Orange Hospital, we were told that Indy had a grade 1 brain bleed, which, being told that, me as an OT, I only know brain bleeds and stroke in adult a kind of setting. So I immediately think she's going to have a disability for the rest of her life. And, you start panicking and thinking of essentially what her future is going to be and what our family's future is going to be. And if that was the case, then that's fine. Like, we'll do it. But I think I grieved so early that thinking she'd have a really severe disability. But, the next day we finally got a doctor to come and tell us what that meant. And they said, it's definitely not as severe as what you're thinking. Most children with a grade 1 brain bleed go on to essentially most of the time not have too many deficits, if any, maybe some little bit of a developmental delay. But we did get told that she'd be at a high risk of developing cerebral palsy. And I guess out here, being rural, there's some funding at the Cerebral Palsy Alliance organisation that will assess babies born prematurely that are under 2 years of age to see if they have any characteristics or, signs of cerebral palsy. So that was an avenue that we went down when Indy was, how old was she? I think she was 6 weeks corrected. So it was 6 weeks after her due date that we had these assessments done, and it did come back saying that she was at high risk of developing cerebral palsy. And I guess because she's so young, you're not sure. No one can tell you what that means for her because it's so individualised for each person. You really are just watching her grow and helping her develop and just seeing what happens. So that first year we had therapy appointments fortnightly in Orange, and actually in January this year we saw the neurologist, a paediatric neurologist again, and she gave her essentially the all clear at this stage that there isn't any signs of cerebral palsy, which is, I guess, a huge relief for us. But yeah, just to be able to look out, and there's other things as well, like, if Indy gets a cold, she probably gets it a lot more intense than the boys would. I've taken her to hospital just, croup, it just seems like it's a bit more intense with the little prems, just with their lungs being underdeveloped.
Yeah, just a little bit more susceptible to things. Yeah, little fighters, but
definitely.
And I presume because you have a household filled with children, kindergarten and below, that every single bug and germ and virus and whatever that could possibly show up is showing up in your house. So that will test little Indy.
Yeah, she's actually done a really good job. And in my head, I think she's made the first year without too many hiccups. She started daycare as well. So
great.
It's going to test the immunity, but I swear everyone's kid gets sick when they go to daycare. So
they do. But also I think living on a rural property, kids are out there, there's dirt and there's, it's all good for the immune system. It's what builds healthy immune systems. So I think she's got a great start. Yeah. So I understand that you and Jake went for a long run yesterday.
Yeah, Jake and I went in the Orange Running Festival yesterday, and we ran 21 Ks, a half marathon, in support of the Running with Premature Babies charity. Since we were in hospital last year, we both said that we wanted to give back somehow in some way or form. And last year when we were in hospital in Orange, the running festival was on, and I had a friend who actually was running for premature babies back then because of a family connection, and I thought that's what I'm going to do next year. That's how we're going to give back. And so we've done it. We ran our 21 Ks yesterday and we raised over $13,000.
Wow.
Yeah, for running with premature babies. So that was huge. We had so many friends and family come and cheer us on, or even run like the 10 Ks or the 5 Ks. Yeah, so that was really special. All for Indy.
Yeah, and that money will go towards amazing much needed equipment for hospitals for looking after preemie babies, right?
Yeah, and I guess that's our goal. We want to, help make sure that for someone else like us who live quite rurally, that there's a hospital close by-ish that can actually handle a premature baby with equipment and staff training, and just so it's less demands on a family that, have to travel because they do live rurally.
Yeah.
It might mean that they can, like us, come back to Orange instead of being 5 weeks in Sydney.
Yeah.
Very proud of ourselves for that.
Well, congratulations. That's a great run.
Thank you.
And Indi just gave a huge yawn as if to indicate that she's there also for you, believing that what you did yesterday was massive.
Yeah, she was there at the end. It was really nice to see her face at the end and keep us going.
What does the future look like for you and Jake, Jolene? Are you planning to have number 5 or is 4 enough?
I think 4 is definitely enough for us. Well, it definitely is. Jake's had the snip, so we're done.
We're done. Okay. You've got plenty of years ahead of you to raise this mob.
Yeah. It's exciting. I feel like we've kind of hit a new chapter with Noah starting school. Like that's always a new thing, and he's just handled that so well. But where each day as it comes, really, we'll just see what the future holds.
It's all looking good. And is Jake going to teach all of your kids how to play rugby?
I think deep down he'd love it if they all took to rugby and enjoyed it like he did growing up. But they're their own little people. With our oldest son, he's such an athletic boy, and anything he does, he excels in. But he's not interested in rugby league. He wants to play cricket. So, like his Uncle Ross, my brother plays cricket for New South Wales in the Premier League, so he's always watching him play. You can't predict what they're going to want to do. So, it's up to them what they choose, as long as they're happy, isn't it right? Yeah.
Exactly. That's it. Thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your story and Indi's story. And I'm amazed that we've managed to get through this interview with only those few interruptions. I was expecting at least the door to open again, asking for another ice block. So I think we've done well. Whatever the new movie was that you put on, it seems to be working.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jolene. And next time I'm out Forbes Way, I'll see if I can look you and the family up. I'd love to drop in and say good day.
Oh, I'd love that, Lana. That would be so great. Thanks so much, Lana.
We hope you enjoyed this episode, made possible with the support of RFDS National Partner HCF, Australia's largest not-for-profit health fund. HCF's partnership with the RFDS reflects its commitment to bettering healthcare access and outcomes for those in rural and remote regions. To learn more, visit hcf.com.au.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with family and friends and subscribe and follow, and then you'll never miss the next adventure. For all the details on how you can share your story with us, join our Facebook group and donate to the Royal Flying Doctor Service. Check out the show notes for details. The Flying Doctor podcast is recorded on Ngunnawal land. It's produced by Sophie Campbell, edited by Mandy Coolin, and I'm your host, Lana Howarth. Catch you next time.